6 months. That's how long the rescue team thought the crash survivors would last on Theta-Seven. The planet had 3 apex predators. Each one could tear through combat armor like paper. The largest weighed over 800 pounds. Its claws were 12 inches long. Survival experts gave the stranded crew 2 weeks maximum, but when the rescue ship finally arrived, they found something impossible. The humans weren't hiding in their crashed vessel. They weren't huddled together, waiting to die. They weren't even armed. They were running a bar, and the 3 deadliest creatures on the planet were helping them operate it. But the truth behind this will shock you, because what happened on Theta-Seven changed everything we thought we knew about human survival instincts. It revealed 3 massive secrets about how our species adapts to hostile environments, and it forced the Galactic Council to rewrite their entire first contact protocols. Here's what nobody saw coming. First, the crew didn't just tame these predators through fear or force. They used a method so simple that every alien species had overlooked it for centuries. When you hear what it was, you'll realize why humans are the only species that's ever pulled this off. Second, the Cantina wasn't just a joke or a coping mechanism. It was a calculated survival strategy that turned the planet's biggest threats into the crew's biggest assets. The logic behind it was so brilliant that military strategists are still studying it today. Third, and this is the part that changed galactic law forever, the humans didn't violate a single Federation regulation. They found a loophole so perfectly suited to human psychology that other species literally cannot comprehend it. When the rescue team realized what they'd done, half of them filed incident reports. The other half asked for the recipe. The crash happened during a routine supply run. 6 humans on a cargo freighter. No weapons beyond standard emergency supplies. No terraforming equipment. No hope of rescue for at least 6 months. But humans don't follow the rules other species expect. Let me show you exactly how this happened. The cargo freighter Nova's Reach suffered catastrophic engine failure in the Theta system. Captain Elena Rodriguez made the emergency landing. Her crew of 5 included pilot Sarah Kim, engineer Thomas Wei, medical officer Dr. Amara Johnson, communications specialist Yuki Tanaka, and cargo master Leon Dubois. They survived the crash. Barely. The ship's main hull cracked open. Life support failed within hours. Emergency rations would last maybe 3 weeks if they stretched them. The distress beacon worked, but Theta-Seven was off the main trade routes. Help would take time. The planet itself seemed designed to kill them. Theta-Seven was classified as Hostile Environment Level 4. That's the second highest danger rating. Thick jungles covered 70% of the land mass. The air was breathable but humid and heavy. Temperatures swung from 90 degrees at midday to near freezing at night. And then there were the predators. The first species was called a Rakehorn. Picture a bear crossed with a wolverine, but twice as mean. 6 legs, crystalline spikes along its spine. Pack hunters. Intelligence tests rated them at dolphin level. The second species was the Thornwing. Flying predators with wingspans reaching 15 feet. Talons that could pierce steel. They hunted alone but communicated across miles using ultrasonic calls. The third was the Mirecat. The name was misleading. These weren't cute. They were ambush predators that lived in the swampy lowlands, 8 feet long, retractable claws. They could hold their breath for an hour and strike from underwater. Federation protocols were clear. Avoid all 3 species. Do not engage. Do not attempt communication. Previous survey teams had lost members to each type of predator. The humans had 2 choices. Stay in the wreckage and slowly starve, or venture out and probably get eaten. Elena Rodriguez held a crew meeting on day 2. "We're not dying in this tin can," she said. Thomas Wei agreed. "The ship's power core is shot. We can't heat this place. We can't seal it. We're sitting ducks." "So what's the plan?" Sarah Kim asked. Elena looked at the jungle outside. "We make friends." The crew thought she was joking. She wasn't. Dr. Johnson pulled up the survey data on her damaged tablet. These creatures are smart, Rakehorns especially. They use tools. They have social structures. If they're that intelligent, they can learn, Yuki finished. Leon Dubois laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Learn what? Not to eat us? Maybe, Elena said. Or maybe we teach them that we're more valuable alive. The theory was insane. No species in the Federation had ever domesticated intelligent predators. The risk was astronomical. But humans had domesticated wolves thousands of years ago. They'd trained dolphins. They'd even kept bears as pets in some cultures. Evolution had given humans one unique advantage. We're really good at making friends with things that should eat us. Now here's where things get really interesting. The humans didn't start with the predators. They started with food. Elena's first order was simple. We figure out what these things eat. Then we figure out how to make it better. Thomas Way rigged up solar panels from the ship's emergency systems. They had power for basic tools. Dr. Johnson analyzed the local ecosystem. The predators were carnivores, but they also consumed certain plants for nutrients. The Rakehorns especially loved a purple fruit that grew in the highlands. Survey notes called it a thornberry. It was toxic to most species, but helped the Rakehorns digest bone marrow. Leon Dubois had worked in commercial kitchens before joining the merchant fleet. He looked at the ship's remaining supplies and had an idea. We've got sugar, he said. We've got salt. We've got flavor compounds. He spent 2 days experimenting. He mashed the thornberries, added a synthetic sweetener from the med supplies, mixed in a salt compound that mimicked the mineral content the predators needed. The result was a paste that smelled terrible to humans. But to a Rakehorn, it was candy. The first test happened on day 5. A young Rakehorn approached the crash site at dawn. It was probably curious about the noise and smell. Sarah Kim placed a bowl of the paste 50 feet from the ship. The Rakehorn circled it for 10 minutes. Then it ate the entire bowl in 4 bites. It came back the next morning. This time, Sarah placed the bowl 40 feet away. The Rakehorn ate, looked at the humans. Didn't attack. The pattern repeated for a week. Each day, the bowl moved closer. Each day, the Rakehorn returned. By day 12, it was eating 15 feet from where the humans stood. It's not domestication, Dr. Johnson said. It's just conditioning. Same thing our ancestors did with wolves, Elena replied. We're not trying to make it love us. We're just showing it that we're useful. The breakthrough came on day 15. The Rakehorn brought 2 others. The crew now had 3 regular visitors, but feeding them created a new problem. They needed more food. The thornberries grew 2 miles away in dangerous territory. The crew couldn't harvest enough. That's when Thomas Way had his genius moment. We don't go to the food, he said. We get them to bring it to us. He rigged up a simple system. The humans placed a larger bowl of the enhanced paste outside the ship, but they only filled it when the Rakehorns brought thornberries first. It took 3 days for the predators to understand. Exchange rate, 10 thornberries for 1 bowl of paste. The Rakehorns started bringing fruit. The humans started processing it. The cycle became routine. By day 20, the Rakehorns were doing supply runs. They'd disappear into the jungle and return with thornberries, small game animals, even useful plants. The humans would process everything and share the results. It was trade. Simple, effective trade. But trade requires trust, and trust requires communication. Yuki Tanaka started documenting the Rakehorns' vocalizations. They had at least 40 distinct sounds. She matched sounds to behaviors. Certain growls meant, "I'm bringing food." Others meant danger nearby. Some were probably just greeting calls. She started mimicking the sounds. The Rakehorns responded. Not with understanding, maybe, but with recognition. By week 4, Yuki could call the Rakehorns to the ship. She could send them away. She could even indicate direction with gestures and sounds. The crew had created a working relationship with apex predators, something no other species had managed. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The Cantina wasn't Elena's idea, it was Dr. Johnson's. Week 5 brought new problems. The Rakehorns were reliable allies now, but the Thornwings were circling overhead, and the Mirecats were getting curious about all the activity. The crew needed a building, somewhere defensible, somewhere the predators could enter safely without threatening the humans. Léon Dubois looked at their situation. We're basically running a trading post. We've got customers. We've got products. What we need is a storefront. You want to open a shop? Sarah Kim laughed. For predators. Why not? Léon said. Think about it. We control the food supply now. We process it. We enhance it. We're providing a service. That's commerce. Elena saw where he was going. A cantina, like the old Earth frontier towns. Exactly, Léon said. Neutral ground. Everyone's welcome as long as they don't fight. We're the bartenders. They're the customers. The idea was brilliant for 3 reasons. First, it gave the crew purpose. Humans need routine. They need goals. Running a business, even a fake one, provided structure. That prevented the psychological breakdown that killed most stranded crews. Second, it established boundaries. The Cantina had rules. No fighting inside. No threatening the staff. Break the rules. No food. Simple enough for intelligent predators to understand. Third, and this was the genius part, it forced different predator species to coexist peacefully. The Thornwings couldn't hunt the Rakehorns inside the Cantina. The Mirecats couldn't ambush anyone near the establishment. The humans had created a demilitarized zone. Construction took 3 weeks. Thomas Way salvaged metal from the ship. They built a rectangular structure 30 feet long and 20 feet wide. Open sides for easy access. A roof made from ship hull panels. A counter running along one side. Behind the counter, they set up processing stations. Léon could prepare food for different species. They had storage for their enhanced products. They even rigged up a cooling system using the ship's remaining power cells. The front area had what Léon called seating. Flat rocks for the Rakehorns, elevated perches for the Thornwings, a shallow pool for the Mirecats. They hung a sign above the entrance. Sarah Kim painted it using ship paint. It said, "The Crash Site" in English. Below that, Yuki added symbols she'd developed for communicating with the predators. The symbols meant food and safe. Opening day was week 8. The 3 Rakehorns showed up immediately. They understood the space. They knew the routine. The Thornwings took longer. A lone female circled for 2 days before landing. She was cautious, aggressive. She screeched at the Rakehorns. Leon placed a bowl of fermented fish paste on her perch. The crew had learned that Thornwings loved aged proteins. The smell was nauseating, but the bird ate it in seconds. She came back every day after that. The Mirecats were the hardest sell. They were ambush predators. They didn't do open spaces. But they were also curious about the Rakehorns' regular visits. Dr. Johnson solved it. She created a spicy meat paste that helped the Mirecats with parasite infections. Their swamp environment was full of them. The paste was medicinal. Valuable. A male Mirecat approached on week 9. He was huge, probably dominant in his territory. He slunk to the pool area, watched the humans, watched the Rakehorns. Elena personally served him, placed the bowl directly in the pool, stepped back slowly. The Mirecat ate, stayed for an hour, left without incident. 3 days later, he brought his mate, then his offspring. Within 2 weeks, the Cantina had regular customers from all 3 predator species, and something remarkable happened. The predators started tolerating each other, not friendship, but tolerance. The food was too valuable, the neutral space too useful. The humans had accidentally created an interspecies community. They'd built a working economy based on enhanced food products. They'd established diplomatic relationships with creatures that should have eaten them. But the most shocking part wasn't the Cantina itself. It was what the Cantina revealed about human psychology and galactic law. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The rescue ship arrived on day 187, 6 months to the day after the crash. The Galactic Federation vessel Harmony's voice dropped out of hyperspace. Captain Jokara, a Centaurian diplomat, commanded the rescue operation. His crew included security officers, medical personnel, and Federation observers. They expected to find survivors. Maybe. Probably traumatized. Definitely desperate for rescue. What they found was a functioning business. The landing team approached the Cantina mid-morning. 3 Rakehorns lounged outside. A Thornwing preened on her perch. 2 Mirecats floated in the pool. Inside, Elena Rodriguez was taking inventory. Leon Dubois was preparing the lunch service. The other crew members were performing routine maintenance. Captain Jokara's translator barely functioned. His shock was evident even across species barriers. "You're alive," he managed. "We're busy," Elena replied. "Can this wait until after the lunch rush?" The Federation team spent 3 days documenting the situation. They interviewed each human. They observed the Cantina operations. They analyzed the human-predator relationships. Their initial assessment called it impossible. Humans don't domesticate apex predators in 6 months. Humans don't establish commercial enterprises on hostile planets. Humans don't create interspecies neutral zones using processed food and simple behavioral conditioning. But they'd done all 3. The evidence was undeniable. The legal implications hit the Federation like a plasma torpedo. See, the Galactic Federation has strict regulations about colonization. You can't claim a planet that has intelligent indigenous life. You can't exploit resources without proper permits. You can't establish permanent structures without Federation approval. But there's a loophole, a big one. Federation law allows temporary commercial establishments during emergency situations. Trading posts, supply depots, rest stations. The law was designed for stranded trading vessels that needed to interact with local populations while awaiting rescue. The humans had technically followed the law perfectly. They were stranded. They established a temporary commercial operation. They traded with local intelligent life forms. They did it all during an emergency situation. The Rakehorns, Thornwings, and Mirecats qualified as intelligent under Federation definitions. They used tools. They communicated. They engaged in commerce. The enhanced food products the humans provided had clear value. The predators provided resources and security in exchange. It was legitimate trade. By the book. But it got better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Federation law also protects commercial relationships. If a species establishes trade with another intelligent species, that trade is protected under galactic commerce regulations. You can't just shut it down. You can't forcibly relocate one party without consent from both. The humans had accidentally created a legal framework that prevented the Federation from simply extracting them and leaving. The Cantina had customers. Those customers had rights. Those rights included continued access to the services they'd grown dependent on. Captain Jokara filed 17 separate reports. Federation legal experts reviewed the case for 3 weeks. The conclusion was unanimous. The humans had to stay, or the predators had to agree to let them go. Elena Rodriguez sat in the Cantina when the verdict came through. A Rakehorn named Redcrest, the first one they'd fed, sat beside her. The crew had started giving the regulars names by week 10. "So we're stuck here?" Sarah Kim asked. "Not stuck," Jokara said carefully. "Protected. Your commercial relationship with the indigenous species creates legal obligations. We cannot forcibly remove you without violating their economic rights." "What if we want to leave?" Thomas Y. asked. You'd need to dissolve the business. Get the predators' consent. Ensure they have alternative food sources. Dr. Johnson laughed. You're telling us that we've basically colonized this planet through the power of snack food and customer loyalty? That is an accurate summary, Zakara admitted. The implications were staggering. 1 crashed ship, 6 humans, 6 months, and they'd accidentally claimed a planet through nothing but trade relationships and behavioral conditioning. The Federation had no precedent for this. No other species had ever thought to try it, because no other species approached survival the way humans did. We don't just adapt to environments. We reshape them. We don't just coexist with threats. We recruit them. We don't just survive. We build communities. So what does all this mean for us today? The Theta-Seven incident changed everything. First, the immediate effects. The Federation had to rewrite first contact protocols. They added new sections specifically addressing human survival strategies. The new rules acknowledged that humans might establish commercial relationships with indigenous species during emergencies. This wasn't criticism, it was adaptation. Because the Federation realized something important. The human approach worked. It worked better than the standard protocols that other species followed. Think about it from a practical angle. Traditional survival doctrine says avoid indigenous predators. Hide. Stay quiet. Wait for rescue. That works if rescue comes quickly. But if you're stranded for months, you're just postponing the inevitable. The human approach was opposite. Engage the threats, convert them into assets, create mutual benefit. It's riskier in the short term, but it dramatically improves long-term survival odds. Military strategists from 6 different species studied the Cantina model. They interviewed Elena and her crew. They analyzed every decision point. What they found shocked them. The humans hadn't just survived, they'd thrived. By the time rescue arrived, the crew was healthier than when. They crashed. Their stress levels were lower. Their psychological evaluations showed no trauma markers. Why? Because they had purpose. They had routine. They had a functioning society, even if that society included apex predators as business partners. This revealed a crucial truth about human psychology. We're wired for community, for commerce, for social structures. Give a human those things, and they can endure almost anything. Take them away, and we break. Other species don't work this way. Centaurians prefer isolation during stress. Draconians form rigid hierarchies. Aquarians enter meditative states. Humans? We open bars. The second major implication involved colonization law. Within a year, 3 human trading companies filed for commercial licenses on previously restricted planets. Their argument was simple. If stranded humans could accidentally create protected commercial zones, intentional traders could do it properly. The Federation debated for 18 months. The final ruling was a compromise. Humans could establish commercial relationships with intelligent indigenous species, but they needed proper licenses, environmental impact studies, trade agreements that protected both parties. Essentially, the Federation legalized what the Theta-Seven crew had done by accident. They called it the Commercial Integration Protocol. Everyone else called it the Cantina Clause. This opened up hundreds of planets for limited human activity. Not colonization, not exploitation, but trade, cultural exchange, mutual benefit. It was revolutionary. The third implication was the most profound. It changed how other species viewed humans. Before Theta-Seven, humans were seen as aggressive but conventional. We fought wars, we built settlements, we followed predictable patterns. After Theta-Seven, the Galactic community realized humans were unpredictable. We could weaponize friendship. We could turn our greatest threats into our closest allies. We could find loopholes in laws that other species thought were absolute. It wasn't just respect. It was caution. Because if humans could domesticate apex predators with enhanced snacks and consistent routines, what else could they do? The Federation Council held a closed session. The transcript leaked 3 months later. The Centaurian delegate said, "Humans don't conquer, they assimilate. They make you want to join them. That's more dangerous than any weapon." He wasn't wrong. Elena Rodriguez was offered a position with the Federation's diplomatic corps. She turned it down, said she preferred running her cantina. The Federation eventually granted Theta-Seven commercial status. The crew stayed for another 2 years, training other humans to maintain the operation. The planet now has a permanent human population of 40. They run multiple cantinas across the main continent. They trade with predator communities. They've established relationships with 3 additional species the survey teams didn't even know existed. Theta-Seven became a model, proof that human survival strategies could create lasting value, that commerce could replace conflict, that the craziest ideas sometimes work best. But the story doesn't end there. Because the crew discovered something during those 6 months, something that changed their understanding of both humans and predators. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The predators weren't the only ones being domesticated. Dr. Amara Johnson noticed it first. She kept medical records on the crew. Standard procedure. But around week 15, she saw something odd in the data. The crew's stress hormones were normalizing, not just dropping, normalizing, reaching levels you'd see in people with stable home lives, with community support, with purpose. "We're adapting," she told Elena, "but not just physically, psychologically." Elena didn't understand at first. Then Dr. Johnson explained. The crew had changed their entire behavioral patterns. They woke with the predator's schedule. They ate what the predators could digest. They communicated using sounds and gestures more than words. They were learning to think like the creatures they'd domesticated. "It's mutual domestication," Dr. Johnson said. "We're changing them, but they're changing us too." The crew had become part of the ecosystem. They'd adapted their sleep cycles to match the predator's active periods. They'd developed an instinctive understanding of threat displays and submission signals. Sarah Kim could read a Rakehorn's body language better than most people could read human faces. This was the real secret. Domestication isn't one-sided. It never has been. When humans domesticated wolves, we didn't just change them into dogs. They changed us too. We became better hunters. We developed new social strategies. We evolved together. The same thing happened on Theta-Seven. The predators learned to trust humans. Humans learned to think like predators. Both species became something new in the process. Captain Jakara asked Elena about it during the exit interviews. "Did you plan this? The integration?" "We planned to survive," Elena said. "Everything else just happened." "But you knew you were changing, becoming different." "We knew we were becoming what we needed to be." That was the final lesson. Humans don't just adapt to environments. We merge with them. We become native, not through genetics or technology, through behavior, through relationship, through choice. The rescue team found this disturbing. Some called it loss of humanity. Others called it contamination. They worried the crew had gone native, that they couldn't function in normal human society anymore. But 6 months later, Elena Rodriguez gave a speech at the Federation Academy. She talked about Theta-Seven, about the Cantina, about the predators who'd become friends and partners. "People ask if we lost our humanity out there," she said. "We didn't. We found what being human really means. We're the species that makes friends with our monsters, that turns enemies into allies, that builds communities anywhere, with anyone." The room was silent. Then a young human cadet raised her hand. "Would you do it again? If you crashed somewhere else?" Elena smiled. "Absolutely. Because that's what we do. We don't just survive hostile environments. We make them home." The recording of that speech went viral. across human space. Within a year, 3 new commercial integration operations launched. Within 5 years, there were 30. Humans were establishing relationships with intelligent species on planets the Federation had written off as too dangerous. The Theta-Seven crew became legends, not because they survived, but because they proved what humans could do when we stopped fighting our environment and started negotiating with it. The Cantina still operates. Redcrest, the original Rakehorn, still comes by daily. His grandchildren come with him now. They've never known a world where humans weren't part of the community. That's the legacy. Not conquest, not domination. Partnership. If this opened your eyes to what humans can really do, you're not alone. Let me recap what we just discovered. Humans don't just survive hostile planets. We turn them into home by building relationships with the deadliest creatures there. The Theta-Seven crew proved that commerce and community beat force and isolation, and they accidentally rewrote galactic law by opening a bar for apex predators and following regulations nobody thought applied to friendship. This story reveals a deeper truth about human nature. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We're not the most technologically advanced. But we're the ones who make allies out of enemies, who see potential where others see only threats, who build bridges instead of walls. That's why the Cantina clause matters. It's not just about legal loopholes or clever survival tactics. It's about recognizing that human strategies for thriving in hostile environments work better than anyone expected. We don't conquer, we integrate. We don't dominate, we partner. The Federation learned this lesson. Now they're teaching it to other species. Human survival instructors work across the galaxy. They teach aliens how to read predator behavior, how to identify mutual benefits, how to build trust through consistent action. But here's what nobody talks about: the cost. Elena Rodriguez and her crew can never fully return to normal human society. They're too changed, too adapted. Dr. Johnson's medical studies confirmed it. Their neural pathways rewired. Their instincts shifted. They're literally different people now. They don't regret it, but it's worth knowing. When you integrate with an alien ecosystem, you become part of it, permanently. So what can you take from this? 3 things. First, your worst threats might become your best allies. The trick is figuring out what they need and providing it consistently. The Rakehorns needed enhanced nutrition. The Thornwings needed aged proteins. The Mirecats needed medicine. Once those needs were met, cooperation became possible. Second, community beats isolation every single time. The crew thrived because they gave themselves purpose. They built routines. They created a society. You can survive alone, but you thrive together. Third, adaptation is mutual. When you change your environment, it changes you. That's not weakness. That's evolution in action. Embrace it. The story doesn't end here. There are 30 active commercial integration sites across the galaxy now. Each one has its own story, its own challenges, its own successes. Some involve humans and predators. Others involve different species combinations. But they all started with the same question Elena Rodriguez asked on day 2. How do we make friends? If you want to see more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell, because humanity's adventures in space are just beginning. And trust me, the next stories are even crazier. I want to hear from you. If you were stranded on a hostile planet, what would your strategy be? Hide and wait, or try to negotiate? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's see how you'd handle a Theta-Seven situation. And if you're really fascinated by how humans adapt to alien environments, check out the video I'm linking above. It covers the mining colony that accidentally started a religious movement with silicon-based life forms. That story makes the Cantina look simple. The galaxy is bigger than we thought, weirder than we imagined, and humans are carving out our place in it, one impossible friendship at a time. That's what being human means. We don't just survive the universe, we make it our neighborhood, one cantina at a time. Thanks for watching. Now go make friends with your monsters.